project he's done for us.
The Brad Witch project. I gotta tell you though, the crickets that I hear on Brad's end of the phone, those crickets come through loud on the show. I don't know if my TV is like set funny or something, but some of those scenes on The Walking Dead, I hear lots of bug noise.
Yes, it's like, I think, yeah.
It still wasn't as loud as Lori peeing last week.
Yeah,
that was really loud.
We are not going to nitpick the show because we had a good show this week. I think everybody would agree.
What?
Sucked.
If we nitpick, we're going to lose a listener.
Yes, at least one. At least one. But before we get started with the Chupacabra episode, we're going to wrap up some Cherokee Rose voicemails that we got that we weren't able to get to on the Facebook group. I kind of asked the question, did the comic readers have a harder time enjoying Cherokee Rose than the new TV watchers that don't know the comics? Because we kind of said that we were spoiled on a few of the main plot points because we read the books. So a couple people were good enough to call in and answer that question. So let's get to those.
Hey guys, Mike Jones here from your Facebook group in regards to the Cherokee Rose episode and readers of the comic versus non-readers of the comic. That is perfectly for how I watch the show. I obviously read the comic. My wife sits right next to me and watches the show. Does not read the comic. This episode in particular, much like you guys posted, I feel like was not surprising at all. The story with Glenn, things of that nature. That's where my wife was very much enjoying the show. Did not see any of the romance angles with Glenn coming or anything like that. But her and I both agree that this was a very flawed episode. Probably one of the episodes I like the least. The Sophia angle has gone on entirely too long. She's not an important character at this point, and I don't see her becoming one. A lot of inconsistencies with Shane's ankle. He appears to be very hobbled in some scenes, and then with the well scene, he obviously is not injured or appears to not be injured. I just felt like the overall quality of this episode was very muddled. Daryl finding this huge house in the woods, finding where someone's been sleeping, eating, and it's never explored. He just kind of leaves, finds the flower, and that's it. So, as always, love your guys' podcast. I think it's the best one out there, and I appreciate all you do to promote The Walking Dead. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike. He's a big contributor to our groups and stuff, which is cool. So I think, besides some of the points that we sort of echoed about Cherokee Rose being a little bit of a weaker show, it sounds like here's an example of the comic viewer, having a little bit of a lower experience than somebody that didn't know those reveals were coming.
Yeah, I have, after watching the recent episodes, I don't want to talk about how that has kind of changed my opinion, but after watching last night's episode, my opinion of the show and my perspective of the show has changed. And I won't get into it now, but I'll get into it later.
When you say the show, you mean Cherokee Rose in particular, or the show?
I'm sorry, the show as a whole. My perspective with The Walking Dead as a TV show changed after seeing this episode. And I'm not sure if it was the episode, or if it was just one of those moments where you have and just come to a revelation. But either way.
In a good way or a bad way, Russ?
In a very good way. Very positive way.
And the thing about the house and Daryl, of course, gets settled real quickly in the new episode. So, but we'll get to that when we get to it. One more voicemail for Cherokee Rose.
What's up, guys? It's Mike. I just want to thank you for putting on the show. Yes, you can Mandy Brad, but I must say I have not been so disappointed in a Walking Dead episode thus far. None of the plot lines really shocked me. A lot of it seems to be filler. For the first time, I felt at a disadvantage for having read the comic. Kind of makes me regret picking them up after the first season, but hopefully that'll change up next episode. I think it will, as they've been stuck on these plot lines for about an episode too long. But great work. Can't wait to hear you show more. But
very cool.
This is the guy who called me a negative Nancy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you think I'm a negative Nancy, dude, you should read the Facebook group wall sometime. There's a couple of jobbers in there who are like, when you put me next to him, I'm like a friggin' clown, dude. So you need to, check yourself.
They make Brad look like me.
What? What?
I said they make Brad look like me.
Right. Okay, go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, I don't know, it kind of cuts both ways. On one side, having read the comics, you do know some of the plot points that are coming up, but also there are a lot of plot points here that aren't in the comics. I mean, we have the whole episode of the CDC that wasn't in the comic. We have whole characters like Daryl and T-Dog that aren't in the comics. So you get both, really, I think. Having read the comic, I really don't feel disappointed knowing some of the things that are going to happen because there's so many things that I don't know about that are going to happen as well.
Right, but in this particular episode, the two big reveals were things that we knew about already if we read the comics, the pregnancy and the Maggie and Glenn romance. So I want to thank Mike for that voicemail, even though Brad verbally attacked him. We do appreciate voicemails, and calls again sometime. So, in an attempt to not run too long again tonight, we're going to get going with our Chupacabra recap. And who is the sponsor of that recap, Russell?
The sponsor, as always, is Discount Comic Book Service. That's DCBService.com, where you can find fantastic specials on all of your comic book ordering. And if you have not been a DCBS customer in the past 1 year or have never been a customer of DCB Service, then you can use the code WV8 and save an additional 8% on your full order. Some of the specials they have going on now, this is the November order for the January shipping issues, are the Walking Dead Compendium, Volume 1. It retails for $59.99. You get it for 40% off, which makes your total $35.99. This is the first 8 trades all in one volume. So issues 1 through 48, all in one big honking volume that you can keep by your bedside and kill a zombie with it when the apocalypse eventually gets here.
And now you can read all about Herschel's barn and not be spoiled.
That's right. Some of the other things going on, they've got a Kirby bundle going on. Dynamite Comics has the Kirby license to a lot of his characters that that he didn't publish with DC or Marvel. So there's a bundle that you can get and get them all for 75% off. So basically what you're getting is 4 books for the price of 1. And the bundle includes Kirby Genesis Dragon's Bane number 1, Kirby Genesis Silver Star number 3, Kirby Genesis Captain Victory number 4, and Kirby Genesis number 7. And most of these all have really cool Alex Ross covers, stuff like that. The other thing is if you're a digital person and you prefer to read your books through your iPad or your Google or your Android tablet rather, you can earn an additional 5% off your orders if you order through Comixology through the DCBS website. So again, that's DCBService.com, and you can go get things through Comixology, or you can also go to My Digital Comics, which is again another digital comic service they have, and you can earn an additional 5% off towards your order. So please check them out, DCBService.com.
Sweet. And what is this Google you speak of? Okay, Jordan, shall we Chupacabra?
Yes, sir. Episode 205, Chupa Thingy, starts with a flashback. We are back after the outbreak of the zombie apocalypse, but before Rick meets up with the group, before even the group has fully formed, from what we can see, it's Lori, Shane, Carl, and Carol, Sophia, and a special guest appearance by Ed, who at first was like, hey, it's Ed, and I was like, oh, it's Ed, he's a jerk.
Yes. Oh, wait, we must not go any further. Brad, do you want to say it, or should I?
No, I'll do it. I appreciate the thought. Could they have actually spent some money on a better wig for Shane, please?
Worst
wig.
I
mean, he might as well. He would look better in my Dolly Parton's wig than that thing. I mean, it's stuck out like a sore thumb to me. I don't know about you guys.
I thought you were going to bitch about the CGI when they napalmed the city.
Yeah, I mean, that's CGI. For me, that's TV CGI.
I didn't find that too offensive because we know the extent of the quality of the CGI on the show. I was more offended by the wig than the scene of Atlanta, which I thought pretty awesome, them dropping napalm in the streets and stuff. But the wig, something got to be done about the wig in the future flashbacks.
Well, as the other guys have said, they go across the ridge and they see that Atlanta's being napalmed by the U.S. government. And, speaking of the CG, I didn't have a problem with it. It actually reminded me of Terminator 2, in the scene where she's seeing everything destroyed. I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah. Probably the same effects, same effects method used.
I really enjoyed the sequence a lot. I think it set up, it added a lot more dimension to what really happened. Again, it's something we didn't really see in the comic, but it just kind of reinforces the horror of what these people must have, went through, or what it was like at that time. The whole, stuck into traffic jams and the army opening up on basically their own people to cut it off and to try and stem the tide as best they could. So I love that aspect of everybody just kind of in horror when they went down to actually see the choppers coming in.
And with Rick as our point of view character, we totally missed this interim period from, when everything started to where we are now. You know what I mean? Like how everything got to be the way it is now.
Yeah.
And of course, every time we see a helicopter, we're reminded we still don't know what happened with the helicopter in the pilot. Or was it episode 2? Either way, every time I see a helicopter, I think of that helicopter. So hopefully we catch up on that one soon. Back in the present day, Lori wakes up and she goes out and has a conversation with Carol. And Carol suggests, hey, maybe we should pitch in. Everybody can get together. We'll make dinner for the Green family, kind of repay them for all they've done for us. And she also tells Lori that, you're kind of like our unofficial first lady.
Yeah, Lori didn't seem to like that comment very much. And then I think she stares over and Rick is arguing with Shane maybe, or somebody's questioning Rick, or maybe Rick just walks in and starts giving a couple like a plan for the day or something. I think that's what happens.
That happens pretty soon. At the same time, Glenn is over hitting on Maggie, and she seems to be not quite as interested as it might have appeared last episode.
Glenn, I'm just going to say Glenn has very little game.
Best pickup line ever. There's still 11 condoms left.
That's 11 minutes of my life. I'll never get back.
Oh. I thought it was cool because you could tell the way Lauren Cohan was acting that she was kind of playing coy with him. It's kind of like, yeah, I'm not interested. But when she kind of walked away, she looked back at him, the way she kind of sauntered off. I thought that was really cool.
And Glenn clearly does not know how to play guitar.
You go, Glenn.
So like you said, they get out the map, the topographical map from before, and we're quickly brought up to speed, and the whole group has been told that Daryl found that house last episode, it just happened off screen, and that has narrowed down their search grid area. So they're going to spread out and look for Sophia and Jimmy, who is not Herschel's son, but I guess it's one of his daughter's boyfriends. That's at least the impression I got. He volunteers to go along with him.
Now, I'd like to make a plea to the writers of the AMC show The Walking Dead, if I may, to please tie up the Sophia storyline, please. I have Sophia, as I said last week, Sophia fatigue, okay? It's been 4 episodes. I understand you want to keep the cast at Herschel's farm long enough for all that to go down, but please, tie up the storyline. Thank you very much.
Hey, John, who was it on Twitter that said, I'm going to start deducting half a buster for my ratings each week that Sophia's still gone?
I believe it's Luthen.
I had to
Either him or Soda.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. It was one of those two.
I started thinking about that a little more. And I started to think, okay, the little girl's missing. They have to stick out at the farm anyway. We're getting enough variety in story. We're getting focuses on Daryl. We're getting focuses on, Shane, on Lori, on Andrea, on Dale. That I felt okay with it. Like, it didn't seem as draggy to me in this episode because I thought they were moving other parts of the story forward, and there was a reason for them to stick around and be there to look for her. It wasn't like they're out in the middle of the road anymore. They're all back in one place, and things are going in a good direction. So, and if you think about it, not much time has really passed. So, this is something I was pretty critical of the last couple weeks, and I seem to be less critical of it this week. And I think, like I said, they're moving things better in other directions that make it more palatable.
I think you're exactly right, Russ. I think the general pacing of this episode and the entire story as a whole was much better this week. So it didn't feel like nothing was happening.
And like you said, I think they just used this plot point a lot better. We have Rick and Shane arguing about it later, which is a huge deal with the struggle for leadership and things like that. And well, we're going to get to all the stuff that the hunt led to. So it's working for the story this week. It hasn't really worked for me the other weeks.
So the group splits up into several smaller groups. Rick and Shane are one of them, and they're going out searching grid style for Sophia. Rick and Shane start the conversation by talking about Shane's high school exploits and Rick's lack of them, but it quickly turns to a discussion of making the tough decisions and whether they should continue looking for Sophia, etc.
That's a big conversation for me. I mean, it's more fleshing out of the stuff that kind of got rushed in season 1, and we're just getting shown that Rick and Shane are just kind of like opposites,
Opposites, but we still have enough of a friendly side. And I really like seeing the juxtaposition of the first half of the scene where they're buddy-buddy for the most part and just rehashing old times and laughing about stuff, with the second part where you see their relationship more these days.
Right, and it's two alpha males and they're friends, but one is reserved and sort of quieter and looking out for the group, and the other one is more brash and ready to make the big move or sacrifice. So it's working for that male struggle, the alpha male struggle.
Like I said, John, this is an important conversation for the characters. Really paints how different they have become. Since all this stuff has gone down, and how whereas Rick is like just openly unsure about what he's doing, Shane has this like false confidence. Kind of again, like you said, John, they play off each other really well in this conversation.
I've been rereading my hardcovers, and I just recently finished the third hardcover. And at this point in the story, Shane has been long gone, but there has been another character filling that second alpha male role, and that was the character of Tyrese. And we haven't seen, obviously, Tyrese in the television show. I've seen people on Twitter and Facebook saying, I wonder if T-Dog is Tyrese's replacement. Yeah, they're both black, but they're two totally different characters. They could be, one could be Chinese and one could be Japanese. They would just be totally different. So we do have, as in the comic, this alpha male, alpha dog situation going on, but it's very different because Rick and Shane have known each other their whole lives, and Tyrese, and Rick have only recently become acquainted. So Tyrese, while he's still an alpha male type of character, he is letting Rick call more of the shots until things are absolutely bonkers in the comic. But at this point in the comic, Rick is pretty much still in control, whereas in the television show, he and Shane are butting heads. So my point of this is, as a result, we're getting a pretty different Rick at this point in the story than we have in the comic book, and it's interesting. I'm not sure how I feel about it, but it is very interesting.
And that's one of the other kind of revelations I had this show. I mean, we already talked about the fact that Shane didn't make it very far in the comic, and I think some of the reason why we're seeing a different Rick, or why Kirkman and the writing crew are able to portray him in a different way, maybe not quite as alpha as we saw him in the comic, is because Shane is there, and so they're able to, because he's there, they're able to go different places in the story. So when we get the scene between the two of them, I love it how Rick can sense that something's off between the two of them, and so he's doing whatever he can to have that conversation, try and get him to open up and to get him to, to kind of get some of that back how it was before all this stuff went to hell in a handbasket. And I like how Shane is trying to rationalize everything. He's like, come on, we're cops. We know that for 72 hours is the most important. Beyond that, we're looking for a body. We're not looking for, it's not rescue, it's recovery. And Rick is just tortured by the fact that it's his fault that Sophia's gone. So I just love that. Again, it wasn't a really long scene, but it was long enough to where we got more of that dynamic. And it just kind of brings me. Did this episode feel longer than the episodes in the past? I know, John, you're always one to tweet or Facebook out. It's the shortest hour in television, but this one felt meatier and felt longer to me.
I still get to that half-hour mark like really fast. For some reason, every time I look up, it's half over.
I felt like there was more going on in this episode than the last episode. I felt like there was more character advancement, more dialogue, more things going on than we've seen in the past few episodes. Comparatively.
And I think it's because of those reasons, Jim. This felt like the very shortest episode of the season. I was not bored at all, and time just flew by.
Well, after the scene with Shane and Rick, we then cut over to Daryl. Now, remind me, because I cannot remember from the episode, did Daryl ask Jimmy permission or ask if he was allowed to use one of the horses?
No, he said,
No.
I'm going to take one of those horses, something to that effect. Like, it was kind of matter-of-factly, I'm going to get a horse, like that type of deal.
Okay, so Daryl's off by himself, with a horse, of course, pun not intended, and he is searching for Sophia, of course, like everybody else. He finds a doll in a creek bed, and it's Sophia's doll, and he picks that up. He goes back to the horse, but I guess it was a rattlesnake, scares the horse. He gets thrown off a cliff, down an embankment into a river, and he kind of loses his crossbow. He gets stabbed through the abdomen with one of his own crossbow bolts. He has to go find the crossbow again, and then he has to climb out of this ravine when he's extremely wounded, but he's wounded enough to make an issue.
Really, I thought it was, again, another great scene where we kind of got hints of the fact that the horse was going to spook, just when things were kind of moving around and the wind picked up or whatever, and then the snake comes and he really gets spooked. And then, of course, when we get towards the end, Herschel mentions the fact that, well, yeah, I mean, you took the horse that would spook, and if you had told me, I would have told you not to take that horse. But I like the whole tumbling down the cliffside where we got the first-person perspective even on the camera shot. I just thought that was a really cool segment.
Meanwhile, we go back to the farm, and looks like this took place shortly after Glenn's scene with Maggie, so he's a little upset, and he runs over to Lori and starts to be like, hey, you haven't told Rick yet, you haven't told him yet, or you haven't told them yet. He doesn't really explain who he's talking about, but at that same moment, Rick and Shane get back, and we can tell that they are still quite a bit upset from their conversation earlier.
What does Lori tell him? Shut up, Glenn, or something like that. She dismisses him really quick. Yeah, I wonder how much the group knows about Shane and Lori. I mean, I know they were kind of sneaking off in the beginning of season 1, but
Dale knows for sure, I would think, because they were together when he was with that group. So the people that were there with the group would all know, wouldn't they?
No, I think they were sneaking off in the I don't know what episode it was in the first season, maybe the second, where they sneak off.
The opening of the second episode,
Yeah, they were definitely keeping it on the down low. But I mean, I don't know. I would expect someone like Dale to pick up on it because he seems to be that type of character. But
like Russ said last week, he is the Watcher.
So it's about this time that Herschel calls Rick over, and we actually get to see the generator for the first time. And he complains again about you're not asking, you're not controlling your people, and you're getting involved in my business. Jimmy wasn't supposed to go with you. He never had permission, and you never asked permission to take my horse. And he's quite upset about that.
And I like how, again, Rick is like, hey, I thought he said it was fine. I took him at his word. I didn't realize that Daryl didn't ask you for the horse. Again, he's trying to, and it's interesting because knowing how this episode ends, it makes Herschel's motives for the way he's behaving a little more apparent. Like I really liked how he's being adversarial to a degree, but he's not outright rude and nasty to him. I mean, obviously, he saved his son's life. He's patched people up, but you can tell there's that hint of you need to move along, and we'll find out the reason why. But I thought that was cool.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they're just like kind of running roughshod over his hospitality if you think about it, though. I mean, he's sharing nice food and water in a safe place and everything with them, and just long enough for them to find Sophia and for Carl to heal up, and they keep stepping more and more out of bounds, in his frame of mind. So even in light of the reveal at the end of the episode, I felt like that Rick's kind of just like imposing on him, and that was his reaction.
Is this where Herschel says, like, how the hell did you people survive this long?
Yeah.
Actually, I think that's towards the end of the episode.
Is that after Daryl gets shot?
Oh, after
Yeah,
okay. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So we cut back to Daryl, who's in the riverbed, and he wakes up, and who's there but Merle.
Yeah, Rooker! Woo! Even though it was only a dream sequence, I'm glad he was there.
Yeah.
We need a name for hallucination Merle. Like, at Fringe, they have like Bolivia and Wolf in it for the other universe. But I guess we'll just call him Merle for now.
Call him Merle.
Yeah, exactly. So they start having this conversation. Why are you helping out Rick and his group? They're not your family. I'm your family. You left me out here to die, and you never came to look for me, etc. and so forth. Daryl kind of passes out a little bit, and then comes to. He thinks it's I think at this point he thinks it's more like grabbing or kicking at him. But he wakes up to see a walker's actually chewing on his shoe, and he has to think fast and fight off 2 zombies.
Yeah, this was awesome.
Fashion.
Yeah, and the Rooker monologue again was like fantastic.
And it was nice. This is the first time. Now, granted, this is not the real Merle. This is all inside Daryl's head. This is Daryl's impression of Merle. But the 2 times we saw Merle before, the first time he was high off his ass on cocaine or heroin, whatever it was, and the second time he was suffering from extreme heat stroke. This is the first cogent Merle we've seen. Granted, like I said, it's not the real Merle, but it's much more of a human being than we got to see in the first 2 appearances of Merle, even though he's still a racist jerk.
It's how Daryl remembers him, obviously, because it's in Daryl's mind. And
right.
This is a side of Merle we've never seen, but one that Daryl is familiar with.
Plus, it was kind of a cool way to have Merle without blowing like what might be a reveal later on in the season or whatever. We were talking about when they had the little teaser last week of they showed Merle in the teaser. We're like, oh no, I can't believe they're bringing him back. This time at the end of the season or whatever. And it turns out, it's kind of a cool way to sneak him in. What have you called it though? I think wasn't it you, Jordan? You called it ahead of time that it was not going to be Merle. Or...
There was a lot of speculation because one of the scenes AMC put up online showed Daryl getting hurt, and maybe the first interaction of Merle. I think it was actually the scene they showed during Hell on Wheels. So the speculation that it might not actually be him was already out online. I didn't come up with it myself.
I gotta say though, after this officially being a hallucination and not the return of Merle, I really question whether he's gonna be back at all this season.
Yeah, I think if they 2 things. One, you're a badass if you pull your own arrow out of your body that you've been impaled with
and
kill a zombie with it. And 2, I agree with you. I don't think we're going to see Merle back because I think that it's almost gimmicky at that point. But I could definitely see him coming back maybe next season.
Now, is this the zombie ear necklace part as well?
I believe that, after he kills the 2 zombies, he chops off their ears, makes a necklace, and somewhere around there, he had killed a squirrel earlier, and he had it on his belt or whatever, and he rips it open and starts eating the organs and gets blood all over himself.
Hey, is this the first time we've ever seen the zombie necklace?
In The Walking Dead? Yeah, I think so.
Someone on Facebook had said something about, they made a comment that made it sound like we had seen it before. Maybe it was just the way I read it, but I got confused and I thought, well, maybe he's had a necklace with, because I thought I saw 3 ears on the necklace, and I thought maybe he's had the necklace with 1 ear the whole time.
I think you see him chopping off the 4th of the 4 zombie ears, but the other 3 are from those 2 zombies.
Okay, I follow you. I got it.
It reminded me in that scene. Did you guys ever see that movie Dead Presidents?
Bits and pieces.
Like Lawrence Tate, and it starts off in there in Vietnam, and the one I think it's Hakeem Woodbine who like totally loses it, and he's collecting like NVA heads, like he's chopping their heads off and carrying them with him or something like that. Anyway, just kind of when he strung up those ears, put it around his neck. I don't know why I just think of that.
Now this is a total, well, it's not a nitpick because I'm not angry at it. It's just something that I noticed. He's reusing these arrows and kind of like wiping them off, and then and then it sticks him through the body, and then he kills zombies with it, and he used it to kill the squirrel that he ate from and stuff. You think he'll ever get to how exactly it's transmitted and what's safe and what's not safe?
Well, I mean, I'm sure they will. I think he's reused some arrows, but this one, I think the only thing it killed before it stabbed him was the squirrel.
He ripped it off.
Yeah, I don't mean to say that he should be infected now. I just mean it just makes me think, like, are they ever going to get to what exactly? Because in Guts they're rubbing it all over themselves. Like I kind of feel like we might need an explanation, like how you actually get it besides a bite.
Well, I mean, not to spoil the comics because I honestly don't even remember exactly how they do it in the comics, but in the Romero canon, which for the most part the show follows, if you die, you're going to be a zombie anyway. All the bite does is kill you. Now, could the blood or other stuff, infect you if it gets in an open wound? Theoretically, yes, but I don't know if we've ever seen that in The Walking Dead.
Kirkman said on The Talking Dead that the whole issue with bodily fluids and things getting in the eyes and all that kind of stuff, he said it comes into play later on or further down the road or something like that. So he made it seem like at some point they're going to address whether or not you can become infected by, getting, zombie juice in your eye socket or something like that.
Very good.
In the comic, it is established somewhere in either the second or third 12-issue hardcover that the bite does not make you a zombie. Like Jordan said, no matter how you die, you will be coming back as a zombie. There were a couple of characters in the comic who were completely uninfected, not bitten or anything. They had their heads removed by a certain someone, and the heads reanimated as zombies. So it doesn't appear in the comic, and I'm sure that Robert Kirkman will. I would imagine he would insist that the same line of thinking would be in the show as well. But it is determined that it is merely death that causes you to become a zombie, not being infected, not being bitten by a zombie or anything like that. Obviously, this was a very polarizing scene. Some of the Facebook comments, I can remember one in particular. Some guy said this was the worst episode ever, and his reasoning was that it was because Merle wasn't real. It wasn't actually Merle coming back. So our Dixon brothers are very loved, obviously, by certain segments of the fan base, and I love the fact that it wasn't the real Merle. Gives me hope that maybe eventually we'll see the real Merle, but I think it was a very clever way, like Jim said, it was a very clever way to bring him back.
Yeah, I mean, assuming that Michael Rooker wasn't looking to be around for an entire season, it was a great way to have him in for one show and not really have to explain anything else away after.
Right. And it's not the last we see of Merle, because after Daryl, after he eats the squirrel and chops off the ears, he starts making his way up the embankment slowly but surely, grabbing on trees. And when he's almost to the top and doesn't think he can make it, his hallucination Merle shows up again and kind of goads him / encourages him up the last little bit of the embankment.
Just when you thought you couldn't top the first monologue, he delivers this one. He's calling people, the N-word, Democrats, like the one-liners were coming so fast it was kind of hard to keep up. He's telling Daryl to kick off his high heels and climb up the hill, and there's some real good stuff in there. And I think
was he called Darlene at one point?
Yeah, definitely Darlene or definitely something like that. And I think he ends with come here and grab Rick's hand, right? Like when he's about to help him up that last bit, he holds out his hand. And up until that point, maybe they revealed it already, Jordan. I'm not sure.
The first time you see that he has both his hands.
Yes, and they were kind of showing you. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
The first time you see he has both his hands is right at the end of the scene where they're in the water still, because he stands up and you can see it for the first time.
Right, but they did a good job before that of like showing angles and stuff where you can only see his one hand and things like that. But I like the end of this one where, and he's really trying to draw that, and obviously this is a hallucination, but the Merle character here is trying to put that divide in between Daryl and the group, saying, obviously they think you're like a redneck joke or whatever, and Rick's gonna help you, the same Rick that cuffed me to the roof, and so this was a cool conversation, and then he ends with come here and grab Rick's hand, and then Daryl kind of disappears forever.
And that's what I love. I think there's been some folks that have been a little critical of the change in Daryl's character from going to what we saw him in the first episode, or to how he is now, and that he's a little more laid back. Well, maybe not laid back.
A little more human now.
Yeah, he's not quite as harsh. And I think what we're seeing in this episode is it's the Merle influence that how almost kind of like, and maybe that's why he identifies with Carol, almost kind of like battered woman syndrome is. Merle was just this overbearing, ridiculous, racist redneck guy, and he pretty much was responsible for most of Daryl's upbringing. And we're kind of seeing it kind of come home to roost here that how much of an influence he had, and why Daryl is the way he is. So I thought that was really cool that they kind of pushed that a little further and kind of gave us a little more sympathy towards Daryl's character if anybody was still kind of on the fence about that.
Back at the farm, they're getting that dinner underway, and Herschel is not happy. He's complaining about the meat being in his house. He's complaining to Maggie about her being too close to that Asian fella. Just all in general, crotchety old guy, not cool. Meanwhile, Glenn goes out to talk to Dale and return a book he had borrowed from Dale. Before he talks to Dale, we see that Andrea is actually on the roof of the RV with a sniper rifle, which I'm sure at that point, at least in the episode, got a cheer from all the comic book readers. And then Dale and Glenn go inside, and Glenn posits the theory that all the menstrual cycles of the women are lining up, and Dale smartly tells him you should probably keep that to yourself. But they get into a conversation about how all the women are acting strangely, or at least that's Glenn's opinion. He almost drops a little bit too much about Lori, but he backtracks, and they get on a side conversation about Maggie, and he reveals to Dale that he slept with Maggie, which I thought was kind of unreasonable. Dale kind of freaks out and says you shouldn't have done that. It wasn't your place to do it. If your father finds out, we're all in trouble, etc. And Glenn kind of leaves it off.
I kind of took that as like the classic. It's almost cliche. I think Daryl was kind of, Dale was kind of hitting it, being like cliched. It's like A, he's our host, but B, you slept with the farmer's daughter, dude, which is like the kickoff to how many hundreds of thousands of jokes out there about you can sleep in my barn and blah 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 blah. So I love that scene. I love the interaction between Glenn and Dale, and the fact that Glenn just kind of wanted to get off his chest and maybe get some advice from Dale on which way to go, and just Glenn's innocence as far as he just doesn't have a clue what he's doing.
What were you thinking? I thought I was gonna die. Great answer.
Best comeback ever. I was like, oh, that is awesome. Great line.
So it's right around this time that Andrea spots Walker way out on the other end of the field.
And yells, Walker! Why don't you just have a siren and blow it as loud as you can?
Yeah. So she wants to shoot it, but all the other group tells her, A, Herschel doesn't want guns fired on the property if we can help it. B, we don't want the noise, so we're just going to go out, we're going to grab our knives, and we're going to go take care of it ourselves. So I guess it's Shane, T-Dog, Rick, and possibly Glenn. I don't remember if Glenn was part of the group. They run out to stop the zombie. Meanwhile, Andrea decides that she can take care of it anyway. She doesn't need to listen to them. And so she takes aim on the zombie right about the same time that Rick and company get to him and realize it's actually Daryl, who's just covered in squirrel blood and hobbling along because he's been shot inside, or he's been hit inside with his own arrow.
This is a scene that, I'm sorry, just real quick. Shane's limping real bad in this little jog out to the zombie or to Daryl. I don't remember him limping like when they were walking around in the beginning doing the
talk. He was a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. It was very noticeable in this scene. But I guess he was trying to run faster, so I'll give him a pass.
But so they get to Daryl, and he says something along the lines, I made it, or where were you guys, something along those lines, right before Andrea takes aim and hits him right in the side of the face. It's just a graze, but she still hits him enough to knock him out.
I wish I could.
He says, that's the third time you pointed that gun in my head.
Right, that's what it was.
I just want to say I wish I could repeat the tweets that the ladies were sending out when Daryl got shot by Lori.
Yeah, I think we can all imagine pretty much the gist of all of those.
Yeah, I can imagine the Dixon's Vixens hit the roof.
This image of Daryl as a walker is my absolute all-time favorite image on this show out of both seasons. Because when they showed him from far away, he was limping, he was leaning to one side, it was like he was dragging a foot. I thought, this is genius. And they showed him closer up, he's filthy, he's got blood, he's got on his bottom half of his face, he's got mud everywhere. It was, to me, it was the perfect zombie makeup.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It obviously wasn't a zombie, but he looked like one. It was beautiful. And I applaud Nicotero for that. That was just fabulous.
His face reminded me a lot of the vampires from 30 Days a Night, how he just had the kind of blood-soaked muzzle.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was a really cool effect. Even though I think, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I mean, we all saw it coming before it happened, right? That it was Daryl.
Yeah.
So I was going, oh, the Dixon's Vixens are going to have a field day with this. Kirkman, if you want people to like Andrea, having her shoot Daryl, probably not the best
For a
idea.
second, I hope that he was dead. Just for a second. I love the character. I think Norman Reedus is doing a great job, but it would have been so like old school Walking Dead if
Send your hate mail to John.
just blam, main character gone, end of volume. That would have been so Walking Dead. In retrospect, I'm happy that he's not dead. But for a second, I was like, that's awesome. And then went away.
I wasn't able to watch it live. I had to watch it on DVR, and I watched it in the middle of the night. All I could think to myself was, oh man, the Dixon's Vixens must have gone through the roof of this episode. I mean, not only did you get Merle, but then they could have lost their, they beloved Daryl as well.
So they take Daryl in to get him stitched up by Herschel, who's even more frustrated with the group than he was before, if you can believe it. Around this time, Shane and Lori have a conversation about whether they should give up on searching for Sophia, and he makes it very clear that the only two people he cares about in the group are her and Carl. Everyone else can go die in a hole.
Jeez.
It's interesting. I mean, Shane makes good points, and I know there are people that have been saying, this whole season that Rick is going to get everybody killed looking for this kid. And I think we talked about it before about how Shane was saying, let's face it, we're looking for a body now, etc. It's almost like they're trying to split the viewing audience, like Team Shane and Team Rick.
Well, Rick will get everybody killed, and Shane will kill everybody if he gets a chance.
Yes, and Daryl will win.
Yes, Daryl will just.
Now, is this? I don't want to step on your toes if you're getting there. Did we go back to Carl yet, real quick?
I think that was the scene where Lori was. That was right before dinner. Lori was kind of crying next to Carl's bedside, saying, "What do I do? What do I do?"
That was like a bummer when they went back to Carl. Like there was so much action and like other cool things, and Daryl cutting ears off, and Merle, and then they went back to Carl, and you're like, oh man, this kid's still out.
Well, and Lori looks a lot like my mom. A similar haircut, similar body type, etc. And so I just see my mom crying there, and it kills me, because my mom is definitely a cry when it comes to situations like that. So.
Who are your mom's phone number?
So anyway. Meanwhile, Andrea is out on the, I almost said back porch. She's on one of the porches. She's upset about shooting Daryl, appropriately, of course, and Dale sits down next to her, and he tells her, don't be so hard on yourself. We all wanted to shoot Daryl at one point or another.
Best line of the episode.
Yeah, I think so.
No, I still think Lens is better.
Which one, Glenn's?
I thought I was going to die.
Oh, yeah, I thought I'd be dead tomorrow. Or I might not be alive tomorrow. So, okay, I had things a little bit mixed up. Now we get to dinner. So this is where the scene with Lori crying at Carl's bedside was, but regardless, everybody goes down to have dinner. Everybody's having a great time except Herschel, who seems very content being upset with everyone. We see Maggie passing Glenn a note saying she's interested again and just pick a place. And he is terrible at writing a note and passing it off without being noticed. And it seems like Herschel has at least some suspicions. But regardless, he passes her back the note, and they continue having dinner.
That was great how he got like all giddy and couldn't control himself, and everybody's looking at him write the note. I would like to add, listen, if you're going to invite the newcomer to have sex wherever he'd like in your house, maybe you should write anywhere but the barn on the note.
Or since you live there, pick the place yourself.
Yes, but as Brad pointed out to me earlier, we had to get him to the barn somehow.
Right.
So I'll take it.
Yeah, when you get to that point, I have a comment.
So after dinner, Maggie opens up the note finally. She noticed Herschel looking over, so she didn't open the note right then so we wouldn't see. And she sees that Glenn has written the barn underneath where do you want to meet up and hook up. So she freaks out. We cut over to Glenn, who comes to the barn, finds that it is padlocked. So he walks around looking for a way in. He gets in, he hears some noises, he pulls out a flashlight, and he sees that in the floor of the barn are a good 20 to 30 zombies walking around. He lets out an oh crap, turns around, and we see Maggie, who says, you weren't supposed to see that.
Were there that many?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that was a good number. I'd say 12 to 15, something like that.
It was kind of hard to tell in the start, but I mean, at least there's more than 2 or 3.
A gaggle of zombies?
A herd?
What'd you say? A herd of zombies?
A murder of zombies?
Oh, I was going to say that, Jordan.
You can say it now, and I'll just cut my part out.
Nah. My comment here was, I find it really hard to believe that Maggie, and again, yes, I'm nitpicking. Somebody's got to. I find it hard to believe that Maggie would have waited that long to read Glenn's note, while she's doing the dishes or whatever. If I was a teenager or young adult in that situation, I would have excused myself to the restroom, and checked the note out at that point. But like John said, they had to get Glenn to the barn somehow. And I think we can all agree that it's so nice to be able to acknowledge the barn at this point. I think we were all just totally jazzed for that.
Yeah, and I mean, it was a difficult one because they've been giving visual kind of cues about the barn, but we didn't want to come out and say, what do you think's going on with that barn, knowing full well that.
I think we literally did say what do you think's going on with that barn.
Well, I tried not to.
It's funny. I was watching it. I was in Houston over the weekend, so I was watching it with my son and my daughter-in-law. And Chris had read. I gave him the compendium, and he blew through it really fast. And so he was familiar with what was coming. And so when he saw the hayloft, I started laughing, and my son looked at me and he just kind of looked funny. I was like, I know exactly what's coming. He goes, really? And I was like, yeah, think about it. He kind of sat there for about 5 seconds. I was like, oh no. I was like, yeah, my daughter-in-law was like, what happened? And neither one of us would tell her, like, you just got to watch it.
Come on down to Herschel's zombie barn.
When she opened that note and read it, both of my hands went up in the air like touchdown, and I was like, yes! I was so excited.
And of course, as we've been saying, listeners, we've been dancing around the fact that we knew, or we suspected because they could have changed it, but we suspected there were zombies in the barn from the comics, and we won't say why. But we can say, of course, that Herschel told them not to camp near the barn, that there was things he was not willing to discuss with them, and also he discussed earlier on with Rick that he considers the zombie outbreak no different than any other number of outbreaks that have happened over the course of human history, like AIDS or other things, and for all of those, at least in some form, a cure or a fix or an inoculation has been created. So that's about what we know so far from the show of Herschel's mindset.
That was the big tell.
Right.
As soon as he said that, it was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so we didn't want to spoil anybody, and I think we did a good job of dancing around it, but now the cat is out of the bag. Well, the zombies in the barn.
Thank God.
Yeah.
So overall, who wants to start with the Buster ratings?
I'll go. This is my favorite episode of the season. I'm going to give it 4.5 Busters. I was not bored. I loved the Dixon Brothers part. The barn reveal at the end was awesome. Seeing Andrea with the rifle was just awesome. Seeing Zombie Daryl was awesome. I don't have any complaints, other than the one nitpick, but it's a nitpick. I'm so happy, and I'm stoked for next week. 4.5 Busters from Negative Nancy Brad.
Nice. I'll go because I'm repeating the sentiment. 4.5 also for me. Best one of this season, maybe top 3 in the series so far.
For Shizzle.
I probably put the premiere of season 1 ahead of it, and I don't know, but the top 3 or 4 in the series.
I will give it a 5. Yeah, which I'm usually pretty stingy with the ratings. To me, this was from an enjoyment factor, from great character moments, from everything I want to see in a Walking Dead show. This was just as good to me as the pilot. And I kind of mentioned earlier, where I'm at with the show, The Walking Dead as a whole. And I kind of came to just the realization that this TV show is just going to move at a different pace than the comic. At times, it's going to be slower. And I'm okay with that. I think it was really kind of bugging me for a while. And I just, this is it is what it is. This is the show. And some things are just going to take longer than we're used to them taking. And I'm good with that. So I think it was just I think the timing of this episode for me personally and my enjoyment of the show was perfect timing. And where it came out and how it came out. So I was really, really happy with it.
Jordan?
I will go back to the 4.5. I was kind of dangling a little bit in between 4.25 and 4.5. For me, I like the episode. I will say that a lot of it was pretty well telegraphed. And I'm not even talking about stuff I know from the comic, but some of the stuff like that Andrew was going to shoot Dale, or how Merle was going to be used.
Wait a minute, Andrew shot Dale?
I'm sorry, Daryl. But I thought a lot of it was telegraphed. Not in a bad way, but just a little bit more than I like. So it was a good episode, but there's still those little things in the background that I didn't love.
I give it a definite 4.5. Busters. It's my favorite episode of the season so far. Definitely good action pieces. Great to see Michael Rooker. Always glad that they took the time to build up on Daryl's character a little bit, explain explain his motivations as to why he is with Rick and his Rick brother, not looking for Merle. That was a strong episode overall. I really enjoyed it.
Jim, can you read us Aaron's email? Our buddy Aaron from the Out Now podcast left us a little buster and some comments.
Absolutely. The show that John is referring to is the Out Now podcast. It's part of our network of podcasts you can check out on hhwod.com, by the way. We don't only do the Walking Dead podcast. We have a whole spectrum of other podcasts in our network, so check us out there. He emailed us, Aaron, emailed us with some thoughts about the Chupacabra episode. So he says that he thought it was a mostly solid entry, despite a few issues that he had. It was, you get to see Rick and Shane argue, you get to see Glenn lectured by Dale. His name for the Dream version of Merle, he wants to call him Dreamy McMurley. So we can try to figure that out.
It's a little wordy, but we can work with it.
Dreamy McMurley. He also agreed that the Vixens must have a field day with this episode because the Dixons are running wild. The bad parts of this episode you can summarize as, girl, are you stupid? And he talks about reasons that he dislikes Andrea in this episode. She's pouting, she's firing a rifle, making all kinds of noise, not helping the group, not confirming her target. Andrea's nearly succeeded at being a character I don't think highly of after all this, which is a shame in comparison to her role in the books. Well, I mean, I think it's a little early to saw Andrea short, Aaron, but I guess I can see your point. He also says he's in the Shane camp as far as the search for Sophia goes, and he hopes that he says that now that Glenn has made his way into the barn, this means that his 11 comments will probably go unused for a bit longer. And he gives it 4 busters overall. The line of the night, Glenn making reference to the ears around Daryl's neck. So thank you for your email.
Yes, thank you, Aaron. To go back to Andrea for a second, one other thing we didn't talk about, but I've seen it discussed quite a few places. Not only does she fire a rifle that she does not, at this point in the show, experience with, she's firing this rifle, she's firing it right at a guy who's in a crowd of 5 people. Like, Rick and team are standing about 10 feet away from Daryl.
She is Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah.
Like, they just kind of compounded the stupidity of her actions. But hopefully she learns her lesson soon.
I don't know if you've ever fired a rifle with a scope.
Many times.
Have you? Oh, I'm surprised at your reaction then.
I used to be a boy, but she does not have that skill or that training. We've never seen her touch a rifle before this episode.
Some people are just gifted.
Well, she's gifted enough to graze them. I'm just saying, it's incredibly stupid and irresponsible to fire a weapon into a crowd, even if you have training. At that distance, it's just not a good one.
I will just say, judging by the preview images that I have seen, they're going to get their training pretty soon.
Hey, the sneak preview of the next episode is really cool. It involves Shane and Andrea. It's pretty awesome.
We will get to more preview stuff, just in case there's some people that don't want to hear about the preview. We'll wrap it up and then do the preview for next week like we
last
try to remember to do.
Yeah. So we'll give you all the information, how to call in, enter the contest, etc., and then we'll go to the spoilers. And at the end, bloopers, this time about my mom.
Okay, let's wrap up some Twitter busters and Facebook stuff too. Soda gave it a 3.5 out of 5. He changed it to a 4 because Merle sort of made an appearance. Luthen gives it a 3.5. Squirrel stick to a tree. 5 from Michelle. 4.5 from Merritt. Caesar gives it 5 out of 5. Another 5 out of 5. 4.5. I'm running through these fast. The Talking Dead podcast, our buddies on our podcast network, gave it a 4.25. Pretty great episode. Tammy gave it a 4.5. Kevin gave it a 5. Oh, here's a bad one. Jeremy gave it 2 busters. Most disappointing episode of the season.
Yeah, that's the guy I was referring to earlier. He's only upset about it because Merle wasn't real.
He angers you, yes?
He doesn't anger me. I just think it's funny to hate something that much because it didn't turn out the way you wanted it.
That fictional character wasn't real.
Tiny Rubber Robot gives it a 5.
Great name.
Yes. Real quick now from Facebook, Mike Jones, who called in 4.5, Kevin a 5, and Mary a 4.5. And Mary also thanked us for her action figure. She received it, so thank you. Mick gives it a 4.999999.
Hey, John, which one did you send her? I don't think we ever heard officially.
She got the Biter zombie. She got the Rick Nicotero zombie.
Nice.
Michelle gave it a 5, and Debbie gave it a 4.8. Another bad one I wanted to read here. Carlos gave it a 2.5. Can we move the story, please? And he went on a little bit. I think it's mostly the Sophia and Carl stuff that's aggravating him, and I'm sure it's aggravating some other people.
That was so little of this episode, There was so much more going on, whereas the previous episodes were all about finding the stupid girl.
Yeah. And 4.5 from Liz. We got a ton of Facebook comments, and we really appreciate it. It's just hard. I got to remember to do polls so we can do percentages and stuff like that. Bunch of 5s, bunch of 4.5, another 4.5 from Summer. There's one 3.5. So, I mean, you're mostly looking at 4.5s and 5s. A couple of people gave it that. I wish the story would move it along, and the 2.5.
And they're entitled to their opinion, of course.
Absolutely. We've actually disliked other episodes a lot more than most people. So that's cool. Thanks again. Check out the Facebook group at WDTV Podcast for the Twitter. We're going to run exclusive Twitter and Facebook contests just for those groups, and we like to tweet during the show and stuff. It's a lot of fun. So thanks to everybody that participated this week. And
I was just going to say, and for folks out there, try not to take things personal. We like to just kind of jive back and forth with not only ourselves, but with the audience as well. So if it kind of came off as we're being a little harsh, a lot of that is just us kind of, I would call it banter.
Yeah, we're just used to doing that with each other. And so, I think sometimes we forget that there are other people listening to us instead of actually the 5 people that are on Skype at one time. So
we have a couple more voicemails, and let's try this one.
Hey guys, it's TJ from Michigan. I was just thinking of a couple things. Thought I'd throw them out there. Talked to somebody that said the military terminology for save the last one is always meaning save the last bullet for yourself in this type of situation. I don't know if you guys mentioned that or not. And I wonder if anybody's going to come up to Shane and say, hey, wait a minute, you said that Otis was covering you, but you brought Rick's gun back. Because as I recall, he gave Otis his gun before he left. Just throwing out there. Love the show.
Thank you, TJ. So what he's saying is that, let me see if I got this straight. Rick gave Otis his gun. I remember Otis having that cheesy rifle though, right? And then
Well,
Shane
he
kind of
had
made fun of him. Oh, he did have both. And Shane comes back
There's
with
enough trading back and forth of weapons, and there's no reason why Shane couldn't make an explanation for why he had the gun.
Yeah, I'm sure he could. But thank you for that. Oh, the
And
other
worse
thing,
comes to worse, he just shoots everybody else.
I never heard the military term "save the last one." It was new to me. Had any of you guys heard that before?
No, I hadn't.
I've heard the concept. I didn't know it was a military thing.
Very good. One last one from Victor.
Hey, Walking Dead crew. This is Victor from Exploring the Multiverse Video Podcast. I just want to leave you guys a quick story on your email or your voicemail here. My wife and I are driving around celebrating Veterans Day, and on our hour and a half long drive to our destination, my wife says she's going to take a nap. So I say, well, then I'm going to put on one of my podcasts. She said, well, can you at least make it a good one? It's going to be the